Alrighty, okay, so here we are for day 10. I did ask in my stories which topic people wanted to hear today, whether it was a topic on control and how we control things, hang on to the steering wheel, or fear and human design and the Spleen Center. And the winner chicken dinner was fear. And so this is all going to be about fear. This may be a long video. Honestly, I'm not sure how long it's going to be. I got notes here because I really wanted for it to be more organized for you, especially when I am going to be talking about human design and the gates. Because the gates, I'm not only going to talk about the fear, and what fear will present itself if you have this gate, but also what the high expression is, which that means when you are in alignment, how does it feel? And so while I'm talking throughout this whole video, there are going to be questions, there are going to be a lot of things, a lot of prompts that I would like you to start thinking about. Think of examples in your life, because fear, this is something we all have. And we've been conditioned sometimes to let fear be the driver of our life instead of us. And so it is a powerful topic to talk about. It is a very deep topic to talk about. But it is something that is really important. And I think that once you start working with your fears, once you start really rewiring your thought process around them, it changes, and I kid you not. And then when you understand, especially when you understand in human design what belongs to you and what doesn't belong to you, then that can also release a whole lot of shit. And so fear, what is fear? Well, what is fear to you, and what do you consider fear to be? Because I have my own definition. So take a moment and think, what is fear to you? How do you define fear? The way I define fear is basically false evidence appearing real. And so fear is real. It feels real to us, to each person, but it is not actually real. The reason why I say that is because not everybody has the same fears. And each person's fears is based on their own experience. It's based on their own wounds and what they've witnessed in life. So I have certain fears that you may not even have. I may be afraid of spiders, but you're like, no, spiders don't scare me. Where there are some people that may be afraid of death. And then others are like, no, I'm not afraid of death, actually. And that's just because of my experiences and my beliefs around death. And so every individual has different fears. And it is based on each individual's experience. And you can't take that away from someone. But in terms of yours, if you know that your fears are not the same as somebody else, then how can those be real? Because if something's real, wouldn't it be the same across the board for everybody? For example, this book is real. You can feel it, you can see it. This book, I can give it to someone else. They will feel the same book and they will see the same book. They would feel it, see it, or smell it. Any of the senses. That's real. And so, but if I saw this book, that has a woman with diamonds in the front, and someone else takes this book and says, I see a man with stars, then no, the book is not real. And so that's what fear is that one person sees it one way and another person sees it another way. And it is based on experiences. It is based on our belief system. It is based on where you grew up in, what surrounds you. It is based on like what TV shows, movies you watch, what you don't watch. It is based on who you follow on social media, who you don't. It is based on who you hang out with and who do you hang out with, who is in your community, who's in your tribe. It is based on so many things. And a lot of the times we let fear be the driver. And so my question to you is a very simple question. Do you want fear to be the driver of your life, or do you want you to be the driver of your life? Because a lot of the times we let fear, even subconsciously, be the driver of our lives. But that holds us back. And so it holds us back in many ways. It will hold you back in terms of taking the next step, in terms of having that conversation that you know you need to have. It holds you back in terms of taking a risk that could actually be really beneficial for you. It holds you back in terms of growth and not growing and evolving and always staying small. There's so many ways fear holds us back. And sometimes it will drive us bananas, like mentally fuck us up. And sometimes it can cause depression. And so there's all these things, and that is when fear is the driver. But I say, take your power back and you be the driver. Now, there are going to be some fears that once you start working with your fears and acknowledging them and kind of really dive deep with them, either two things will happen. Some fears will go away because they don't belong to you and they are not yours. And we're going to get to that part in human design. And then other fears will just become a whisper because they will not be the driver. They will just be in the passenger, because the whole point is to walk with your fears and not avoid them and not bypass them. Still notice them. Same thing with low emotions. We don't want to avoid the low emotions. They're there, matter of walking with the emotions and acknowledging them. So same thing with the fear and sitting with the fear and seeing what this fear is all about. Where did it come from? Where does it stem from? And what evidence are you putting into your life, into yourself? And you're saying, well, it's real because of this. But then is it really? And so there's going to be those situations that sometimes it goes away and then other times it just becomes a whisper. And there'll be other times that it reappears, but in a different situation. And that is an invitation for you to level up. That is the universe inviting you, being like, you ready to go next level? Here's your invitation. And that's when you decide, yeah, I'm going to face this fear and I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to level the fuck up. And so there's that. And on the flip side is, if you don't work on your fears, then through evidence and putting on more evidence, sometimes they can get louder. And that's not fun. And then they become the driver. And that's not fun. And so this is taking back your power and standing in who you are and not letting your fears be the driver. And so there is many ways to work with fear. There are so many tools out there. It's bananas. So I am going to be throwing tons and tons of like tools and recommendations and things. Take what resonates, leave the rest. Because there's some things that you may not resonate. You're like, nah, I don't want to really do that. That's okay. Try something else. And so, one, it's definitely making awareness of your fears. One, really make a list right now, or, you can pause this video, make a list of your fears. Write down all your fears that you currently have in this moment. And whatever it may be, a fear of having a conversation with someone, a fear of speaking your truth. It could be a fear of a certain illness, a fear of death. It could be, what else? Fear of taking a certain risk, of jumping into something you don't know about. Be fear of spiders. Just write down all your fears. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the gates, and I'm going to talk about the spleen center in human design. So for those of you who don't know about human design is basically your energetic words today are just not happening. Energetic blueprint, I like to call it, and it is kind of like astrology but different. And so it takes your date of birth, the location, and it creates this chart for you. And there's so much information. It tells you where your intuition lies, like how to make decisions, what your strategy is. There's tons of information. I love human design. I am a human design reader. I use it in my coaching. I find it is so powerful to have my clients' human design charts, because then I cater the coaching towards them, towards you, like, if you desire to be a client of mine. And so I love talking about human design because it makes sense of the things that don't make sense in life. And also it puts, I guess, this logical perspective to certain things. And like in this case, I'm going to go through each fear gate. And if these gates are part of your chart, then you have this fear, and this fear is always going to be there with you. But if it's not, and you have this fear, then it's not yours. Bye-bye. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. So you can release it. And so the fear gates come from the spleen center. So when you're getting, you can go get your chart at mybodygraph.com. And when you're looking at your chart, you're going to see there's a bunch of triangles and a bunch of shapes, triangles, squares. And so when you're looking at it, on the left-hand side, there's going to be that one big triangle on the side. It's like a huge triangle. Not on the side with the two little ones, but the big one. That's your spleen center. And your spleen center is, blinking up for a second, is a very powerful intuitive center. It is actually one of the oldest centers and oldest organ. And it kind of works with fear. It is a very interesting center, and there is more to it in terms of like biological stuff and science stuff, but I'm not going to go into that. And so if it's colored in, it means it's defined. So what that means is that you get intuitive hits from it. So you get a sudden intuitive hits. They come quick and then they go away. So it is one of the quietest intuitive centers because it really focuses for you to be present, to be able to listen to it. And so practicing presence and being present in the moment, being in the now, is a really good practice to anchor in so that you can be able to listen into those intuitive hits. And so that is in its highest expression. If it is white, it is either undefined or open. And then that means that you take the energy from the outside in. And so sometimes this is where you can take on fears that don't belong to you. And we'll dive deeper into the gates with that. Or another one is like staying at things longer than you should. So for example, the place that I stayed in, the apartment that I was living in before, I stayed in it longer than I needed to. And it wasn't good for me. This can also look like staying in a relationship longer than you should. And you have to leave, but for some reason, you're just staying in it. And it is really hard to notice that sometimes, even though the universe can send us a bajillion signs. But now that you know that this is, if you do have it colored in, if it's white, that is something that happens to you. So maybe being a little bit more like paying attention more next time when you are getting the signs from the universe for something that, maybe you should let go. Maybe you should walk away from the situation. Maybe you should move. Maybe you shouldn't be in this situation. And take that opportunity to be like, okay, wait a second. Am I staying in this longer than I should? And why am I staying it longer than I should? And then this is where you can connect to your whys and figure out what is the real reason. And for me, like, I stayed in that place longer than I should because it went down to fear. And again, the spleen is like the fear center. Like, it's basically where fear lies. It is run by fear. And so if you are staying in something longer than you should out of fear, then that makes sense. And so it's tapping into that. And if you are saying it out of fear, then that's when you know you need to get up and leave. That's when you know you need to walk away from the situation. That's when you know you need to let it go. And so that is the essence of the spleen center. And so the gates, so you see the triangle and there's these lines that come out of it. So if the lines are colored in, then those gates, those are your fears. If they are white, they are not. And so, but there's going to be two colors. You'll see red and black. So black means it is conscious. You're more aware of it. And red lies in your subconscious. But with human design, sometimes the subconscious can become conscious. Depending on life experiences, depending on growth and certain things that have come to you, that sometimes that can shift. And so pay attention to when I go through each of the gates. And if it's white and you're like, but wait, I have this fear, it doesn't belong to you. And if it's colored in, it belongs to you. And I'm going to tell you what that fear looks like in like a low expression, like out of alignment, and then what it looks like in alignment, and also how to bring into alignment when you notice it out of alignment. So we're going to start with gate 18. So gate 18 is a fear of authority and judgment. So let's talk quickly about the authority part. So fear of authority, what authority means to you. So if authority means to you like politicians, police officers, a mother figure, father, mom, dad, teacher, anything that what is authority to you, that is a fear. That is one of your fears. So that's like one example. So it's what authority means to you is not necessarily what society perceives or what the world perceives as authority. So you might be afraid of cops, but you may not be afraid of teachers, depending on how you view this. And then the other part is a fear of judgment. So here's where sometimes you will stay small, and because you have the fear of not getting it right. Like, you're afraid that if you do something, you might not get it right, and so you won't do it. And so this is where perfectionism also comes in. And also, when it is out of alignment, you're always focusing on what is wrong. Like anything, you're like, but something's wrong with this, but something's wrong with that, but something's wrong with this. And so the whole idea of like kind of bringing this into awareness and how to shift into a high expression is, one, you have to notice the patterns. So there will be a patterns, because if you're focusing on what is wrong in a pattern, the highest expression means that you're going to take that and you're going to make it better. You're going to take of what isn't working and you're going to be like, how can I make it better? And that is in a highest expression. And because you notice the things in that pattern that need to shift, you notice what doesn't belong there. And so it is paying attention to those patterns, paying attention to that. And just being like kind of being really aware of it. And so, but this gate is more of like kind of like a gate that they call a projected gate, which is associated with projectors, but it doesn't mean that only projectors have this gate. It just means that as a projector, you have to be recognized and invited in before sharing. And so that's what this gate says. So even if you are a mani-gen, manifestor, generator, or reflector, if you do have this gate, basically, and you can notice a pattern, you can see what's wrong, and you have a solution to fix it, you have to be recognized and wait for the invitation. And so in this case, somebody has to come up to you and say, hey, can you edit this paper? Can you fix this problem I have? Somebody needs to invite you in for you to solve the issue. But also you can create invitations. So this is where you're like, I see there's something wrong here. Would you like to hear my opinion? And then that's when the other person will say yes or no. And so that is another way to like kind of work with that. So that's gate 18. If this is white, it does not belong to you. You don't have it. So bye-bye. But I will give you at the end, I will give you some more tips. Don't worry. Okay. Gate 28, fear of death and kind of this like thing that you feel like you have no purpose. And this is where victim mentality can come in. So why is this happening to me? What is the point of living? I feel like I have no purpose in life. That's where that's the lowest expression of this gate. So if this is colored in, you have this. How to shift with this. So what it looks like in a high expression is that you go into these struggles and there's something for you to learn from them. There's a lesson. And so how to shift that mindset, become curious about the struggle. So anytime you go into something, if you start hearing your mind of like, why is this happening to me? And what's the point of living? And what is my purpose? Like, what am I doing here? Be like, wait a second, there's something for me to learn in this situation. There is a lesson that is going to allow me to level up myself as who I am as a human being. So what's the lesson? How can I turn this situation around and be curious about it to see what is in it? What is in it for me? What is it teaching me? What is it here to guide? And so that is how you can kind of shift from a low to a high expression in that gate. So now we're going to tap into gate 32. So gate 32 is fear of failure. But this is also where you could be resistant to change. So you're afraid of failing and you will hold yourself back from making certain decisions because you don't want it to change, because you're like, well, what if it fails? What if it doesn't work? And so you stay small. But in a high expression, in alignment, basically what this looks like is, something in my mouth. Is you're going to be looking at the best potentials and decisions for yourself, for your goals and your dreams. And you're going to move forward in what you think is right for you. And so how to shift from that? Look at your decisions. Look at all your decisions that you have. And what is the reason that it is holding you back? Is it because you're afraid of failing? But then, failing, is it really failing? Because at the end of the day, failures is just such a negative idea to failure. But you can learn something huge from failing. I believe it's a lesson. It's a lesson. So whether you succeed or you fail, you still learn something amazing from it. And there's always going to be failures in life. But They're lessons. That's the way I see them. I like seeing them as lessons because I think it is more of a positive spin to it. So look at your decisions and check in with your strategy in human design and authority. So authority is your decision-making process, and your strategy, if you are a manifester, it could be initiate, like inform, and generators to respond. Projector is manifesting, generators also inform and respond. Projector is wait for the invitation, and reflector is waiting a lunar cycle. And so look at that. Look at your strategy, your authority, check in on your decisions and see what is why are you saying yes or no? And what is the real underlying reason as to why you're saying yes or no? Is it because the yes is gonna, is it because either or is gonna, that you're afraid of failing? Or is it because it's actually gonna get you a step closer to your goals, a step closer to where you desire to be? And if that's what it is, then that's when you jump. That's when you just go for it. So then we got, Ichinos, gate 50. So gate 50 is fear of taking on too much, fear of dependence. So taking on dependence. So this can be also taking care of others, putting on too much on your plate that you're afraid that you won't be able to complete it, letting people down. So this is where you have a fear of letting people down, so that you take on these tasks and you're like, I need to make sure I do it because I don't want to let others down. And so what does that look like in a high expression is caring for the community and looking at, knowing what everybody needs and being that person to provide that for them. But same time, finding the balance of taking care of you and others. So finding that balance. And so to shift it into alignment is self-care, legit. Taking care of yourself, self-care, literally filling your cup first before filling everybody else's cup. And so that is gate 50. Gate 44, I'm gonna go next one. Feel like my hand is we're almost there. My hand is, I really need a tripod. Oh my God, I desire a tripod. Okay, so gate 44 is fear of the past. Fear of the past repeating itself in a situation that you are seeing certain patterns, the same thing is happening. You're like, oh shit, is this going to happen to me again? And so sometimes, you kind of stay too focused on the past and you're scared it's going to happen again. And so I have this gate, so I'm very aware of this gate. And so in a high X expression, what this gate looks like is you notice, it's really intuitive. You notice the patterns. You notice them, you see them, and then that's when you get to decide, again, who's the driver? Is it your fear or you? So this is where you get to decide if you desire to break this pattern. You shift yourself. What are you going to do different? How are you going to shift your mindset around it for it to be different? Or what are you going to physically do that it's different? And that's when, and finding the lesson, you can really look back at your past and find the lessons within each pattern and know what the lesson needs to, know what you need to kind of work on. And so that is gate 44, fear of the past. Gate 57, fear of the unknown. And so this is fear of the future, fear of what's coming. And so in a low expression, this can be blocked. This is where your intuition can be blocked. You're indecisive. You don't know what decisions to make because you're afraid of what's going to come out of it. You're afraid of what this situation is going to bring. And so in a high expression, this is, you are super clear on like you have your very clear awareness and you're clear of where you desire to go. And you know what is right for you and what is not. And so to bring into high expression, when you feel like your intuition's blocked, when you feel like you can't make a decision, this is where meditation is really good. Pausing, doing some breath work, slowing down, taking a pause. So if you do have Gate 57, this is what is like really good to do. For Gate 48 is fear of inadequacy, fear of not having depth, like lack of self-worth is also in there. And so how you can get stuck in this situation is you will stay small because you feel like you need to, do more certifications or learn more. And you won't take another step, even though you have all the information you need. You don't need anything more, but you will keep yourself small. And you're like, but I'm not qualified. I'm not certified. I'm not good enough in this. I need to learn more. I need to do more. I need to this, etc., etc. And so, yeah, that's where you feel like not good enough, and perfectionism can come in this as well. And so this is where, like, in a high expression, is doing it even though it feels scary. And so I have this gate as well, and it's really interesting because this gate really speaks to me in terms of like my business. There's so many times where I've had to jump, and every time I jump, I'm like, this is fucking scary, but I jumped and I've taken the leap. And that is basically how to bring it into alignment, is to take that jump, even though there is a part of you that doesn't feel good enough to be teaching or to be doing something, but you got everything you need. You got all the tools. You don't need to know anything more. Just take the jump, take the leap, and get yourself in that high expression. And so that's what that Gate 48 is. So those are all the gates in human design out of the Spleen Center. If any of those are white and you've experienced these fears, they don't belong to you. And so another way to work through fears is, well, like I said, make a list of them, recognize them is huge. Then it is honestly working on mindset shift. It is literally shifting your mind around it and finding new evidence for it to completely shift. And so you have now a bunch of new evidence that I shared with you with the gates. And if it doesn't belong to you, release it. And to release it, there's so many ways. You can do like a fire burning ceremony, like write them down and burn them in the fire. You can do EFT tapping. Breath work is another way to release it. Sometimes I just like take a bathtub, and as the bathtub drains, I imagine my fears like going down the drain, and they're just going away. Down the drain, down the drain. They don't belong to me. They are not serving me. And so there's many different ways to release fears, and those are some of them. Take what resonates, leave the rest. This is day 10 of 365 days live. If this video resonated, if you love this video, please like, comment, share. I appreciate it so much, and thank you so much for watching this. I know this one was a little bit of a long one, but I really went into a lot of information around human design and the fear gates. And so if you do have any questions around human design, feel free to send me a DM if you desire to learn more. I am a reader, so send me a DM and we'll take it from there. And so as you've seen from the beginning of the video, it was lighter, and then now because it's getting darker because it's later, the video is getting darker. Anyways, I'm just babbling right now. Okay, I'm gonna go. So thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye.